Hello, if you're writing NIH proposals, you've probably faced this question or this conundrum of what do I put in the significance section of an NIH proposal and what do I put in the innovation section? What belongs in each one? And there's still confusion about that, understandably. And so I wanted to just go through a few quick points that can help you sort of demystify or deconvolute this and understand what belongs where in your proposal. So let's start with the significance section. First, the significance section is really about the problems, not the problem. So the distinction between the problem and the problems is that there are multiple layers to any problem at different levels of sort of consideration of the particular problem. Like, just to take a very rough example, cancer is a problem. Okay, that's a very big, broad layer. Okay, so then you might narrow it down to a specific cancer. Breast cancer is a problem. Yes, it is. Okay, that's a different layer. Then let's say, and this is going to be very outdated scientifically, but let's say P53 is a gene associated with apoptosis in cancer, and there are specific things that go awry with P53. Okay, that's another layer of problem. And then you could dive into the specific like modifications, methylations or whatever on P53, and that would be another layer of problem. So you see, there's not just one singular problem here that we're dealing with. We're dealing with layers of problems. And so in the significance section, we're actually wanting to address several of the layers of the problem, starting from a bigger picture and focusing down to some narrower layers of the problem. And so this is what I often call a funnel. I'm not the first person who called it that, but I work with my clients very much on this idea of designing a clear funnel, and we have a tool called the Grant Story Funnel for doing exactly that. So, but back to the significance, if we look at some of the questions that the specific problems that you might want to address, the questions in the reviewer's mind in the significance section, those include, why are these layers of this problem important? Why is this important to address? Especially for this field right now. So let's say you're working in health research. Many of the people writing NIH proposals are doing something related to health, obviously. And so if you're in health research, you might say, well, the problem is, again, this cancer is killing a bazillion people. And sure, that's important in a very broad general sense. But this importance that I'm getting at is what your reviewer really needs to know is relative to where the field is at right now. Why is this particular problem the problem to address, to spend money on out of all of the proposals that your reviewer could support? Why support working on this problem, this specific, more focused problem? Now, you can't just sort of start the significance section. Well, I guess you can do whatever you want, but it wouldn't be a good idea to start the significance section off immediately with that more focused problem. So that's why we use a funnel to build to that focused problem. But ultimately, in your significance section, a key thing is to get to that point where you make it very clear why this is important. This problem is important for the field to address right now. Who does this impact? Okay, so again, this happens at multiple levels. In a broader sense, it might impact people via a health condition, but more specifically in your field, who is this problem impacting? Where is it holding up forward motion, forward research? Where is it causing inefficiencies or wasting time or money or causing human suffering? And where is it causing specifically your colleagues who might be reviewing your proposal anguish and frustration in their own research? And where they see, oh, if you solve this problem, my research will move forward too. Then, you've got a winner of a problem. So then the next thing is, well, why is a solution currently missing? Have people tried to solve this or not? That's really important. And if they have, why haven't they been able to solve it yet? So that's key. And again, what have people tried? So that's a related thing to what I just said. What have people tried? And we don't want to give a comprehensive literature review here. The NIH has very explicitly said they don't want a comprehensive literature review in your grant proposal in the significance section. But it is important as part of what they do want, which is the premise. All of this builds to the scientific premise, by the way, in case you were wondering, how does this fit with the premise? All of this is part of your problem premise. And so it's, what have people tried? And be brief. Why is a solution needed now? Not anytime, not just in general. Why now? What opportunity is there now based on technology, based on people, based on circumstances, based on previous advances, publications in the field? Why now? The clearer you can get on why now, the more your reviewer might feel some urgency to actually support this now, as opposed to just something that could have been supported 20 years ago or could be supported in 15 years from now. Who cares? Okay, well, if this is just as good now as in 5 years, okay, great. I'll wait 5 years because I've got more urgent things to support right now, right? Why do you think you and your team have a solution? And this is in a very broad sense. Not, we leave the details of the solution until the approach section, but broadly, we want to give that impression. And in which aim will you solve the problem? So as you go down the funnel and get more and more specific with the problem, ultimately you get to a point to sort of very specific problems. It may be stated as a hypothesis or a question, but that's still a kind of problem that you are going to answer. So then, what aim is this going to be answered in? And it's really good to give your reviewer some guidance as to where that will be answered. All right, so that's for the significance. Let's talk about innovation briefly. So innovation is about your solutions, but not just any solutions, because the approach section is going to allow you to detail how you're going to work on these problems during the term of the grant that you hope to get. The innovation is in specific about the new solutions. What new things do you bring to the table that will help you solve these problems? What new things do you bring to the table that will help you solve the problems? So let's see. One of the things is, what advance has happened to make your solution potentially likely to work? I say potentially likely, that's kind of waffle words, and I wouldn't want to be that waffling in my grant proposal itself. But you want to convey that something has changed. You've developed something new, or something new has become available, or team members or resources have become available. Something has happened that you're going to bring to bear on the problem that has not previously been brought to bear on the problem. Super important. What new enabling ideas or technologies does this proposal use? Does your solution to the problem use? What new approaches do you use? How are you combining existing approaches in a new way? Because sometimes some people come to me and say, well, I don't have a brand new approach that I developed. And that's fine. You don't always have to develop a new approach. But typically, if the problem hasn't been solved, it means that existing approaches by themselves are not enough to solve the problem, right? Or otherwise it would be solved. So here is a chance to say, well, I'm combining this thing and this thing together, and together we have much more likelihood of moving forward than each one of these apart. What new unique resources have you developed, or do you have access to? That's also important. And there are more details about what goes into the innovation section and the significance section that I'll talk about in other videos. But my goal here was to really make it sort of clear, this distinction between significance, innovation, what goes where, and hopefully This can serve as a guide to help you as you're putting together your next proposal. And if you want more assistance, more training on grant writing, we typically have some kind of training going over at grantwebinar.com, so you can go check that out and see what kind of training we have going to help you make your grant proposal writing more efficient and more productive. All right, this is Dr. Morgan Giddings signing off.